Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So yeah, last time कोई थे क्या आप लोग में से? Just I wanted to understand कि last time क्या चल रहा था story में. Because it is difficult for me to read the whole thing and Hare Krishna. Rishika Mataji, you were there last time?
No, Prabhuji, I was not there.
Okay, you are also not there. ठीक है, we'll start from chapter 13 because anyway, I don't know, nobody was there it seems. We'll start from chapter 13.
But Deepti Mataji did send me from where to start, like from where to
Yeah,
continue.
yeah, she sent me also, but then nobody was there, so I don't know. I mean, people will be able to get what is going on, so that's why I'm thinking to read from beginning itself. And how big this chapter is. It's quite big.
Okay.
And that's why I was asking if, if anybody was there last time. Because anyway, if everybody is new, then we can start from beginning only. Okay, Arjuna's pilgrimage, I'll read. It was more than a year since Narad Rishi's visit. Okay, since Narad Rishi visit kiya tha. The Pandavas' power and influence had increased and they had brought many other kings under their sway. They ruled with one aim, to keep the people on a path of piety and truth. जहाँ तक मुझे याद है कि they were actually this Duryodhan and Karna, they were scheming कि किस तरह से इनको पांडव को हटाया जाए, जिनका जो हमेशा से प्लान चल रहा था कि somehow they did not want to give them anything, but विदुर और ये इन्होंने समझाया था. आई थिंक वहाँ पे किंगडम दिया था और लोग भी एक्चुअली चाहते थे पांडव वापस आए, तो वो सब देखा था हमने. So they ruled with one aim, to keep the people on a path of piety and truth. By their own example, they showed how happiness follows a life of virtue. In everything they did, they accepted the guidance of spiritually advanced Brahmins. So why we are reading Mahabharata? Because obviously there is so much of this story is very interesting. This storyline, but along with the story, we get to understand so many things actually. How the culture was there in earlier times, how people would relate with each other, and how, yeah, all these things are there. So we get to learn so many things. So yeah, in everything they did, so see here it is coming, कि किस तरह से happiness follows a life of virtue. So if we are following a life of virtue, then how happiness automatically follows. एक कहावत भी है ना, धर्मो रक्षति धर्म, धर्म रक्षति धर्म. धर्म जो है धर्म की रक्षा करता है, मतलब अगर हम धर्म का पालन करेंगे तो धर्म हमारा पालन करेगा. मतलब इट विल इंश्योर कि या यू आर आप या आप सही हो, मतलब बेसिकली आपको धर्म खुद प्रोटेक्ट करेगा. आप धर्म को प्रोटेक्ट करेंगे, धर्म का पालन करेंगे तो धर्म भी आपको प्रोटेक्ट. वैसे यहाँ पे आ रहा है हैप्पीनेस फॉलोज अ लाइफ ऑफ वर्च्यू. So in everything they did, they accepted the guidance of spiritually advanced Brahmins. Indraprasth flourished and became more than the equal of Hastinapur in the world's eyes. So we know that Indraprasth इनको दे दिया था half kingdom, as पिछले chapter का नाम भी था. And Hastinapur was still ruled by this Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra. So in everything they did, they accepted the guidance of spiritually advanced Brahmins. Yeah. Due to his unswerving adherence to virtue, Yudhishthir became known as Dharmaraj, the king of legend. So we all know Yudhishthir ko, that he is known as Dharmaraj because he would always make sure that जो भी वो कर रहे हैं, इज इट एज पर धर्म और नॉट? So Draupadi pleased her 5 husbands with her feminine graces and expert attentions. According to their agreement, each of the brothers was allotted time in which to be alone with her. One day it so happened that while Draupadi was alone with Yudhishthir, a Brahmin came to Pandava's palace. Standing by the gate, he cried out, O king, a Brahmin's wealth is being robbed by wicked and despicable men. Alas, how can it be that in the kingdom of virtuous Pandavas, the Brahmins are not protected? A king who takes his taxes but pays to protect the people pays to protect the people is considered the most sinful of men. O heroes, take me by the hand and deliver me from this furnace anguish. So time to time you'll see this principle हाँ, कि अगर कोई राज्य में कोई भी दुखी है, कुछ भी प्रॉब्लम है, he'll go to king and he'll challenge him कि तुम क्या कर रहे हो, तुम्हारे मतलब it's not expected of a king that कि उसके राज्य में कुछ गलती हो रही हो, मतलब कुछ भी अगर बुरा हो रहा है तो उसका रिस्पॉन्सिबल किंग है। और यहाँ पे आ रहा है कि हाउ कैन इट बी दैट इन द किंगडम ऑफ वर्चुअस पांडवास द ब्राह्मण्स आर नॉट प्रोटेक्टेड? तुम टैक्स ले रहे हो तो इट इज योर ड्यूटी टू प्रोटेक्ट द पीपल। सो या तो इस तरह से आके ब्राह्मण उनको बोल रहे हो युधिष्ठिर को while he was with Draupadi. So in anger and grief, the Brahmin repeatedly cried out. Arjuna heard his cries and called down, do not fear. He went quickly to fetch his weapons in order to punish the thieves, but discovered that Yudhishthir was alone with Draupadi in the room which held the weapon's chest. Arjuna hesitated. How could he intrude upon his elder brother, especially as they had made their agreement? तो इनकी पता नहीं, आप लोगों को मालूम होगा, इनका ऑलरेडी अग्रीमेंट था कि एक एक साल जो भी है, एक एक साल आई गेस ये द्रौपदी जो है एक एक भाई के साथ रहेंगी एंड नोबडी कैन इंट्रूड, नोबडी इनकम और डिस्टर्ब कर सकते हैं, प्रिवेसी वो डिस्टर्ब नहीं कर सकते इन दैट विद इन दैट टाइम पीरियड। तो यहाँ पे ये ब्राह्मण आके बाहर चिल्ला रहा है, ये चैलेंज कर रहा है, यार तुम लोग कैसे हो, कैसे राजा हो, टैक्स ले रहे हो और कुछ हम सफर कर रहे हैं। तो अभी और वो उधर क्या नाम है युधिष्ठिर अपना द्रौपदी के साथ अलग रूम में बैठे हैं और इनके इनके वेपन जो उन रूम में पड़े हुए, ही इज हेजिटेटिंग हियर। सो हाउ कुड ही इंट्रूड अपॉन हिज एल्डर ब्रदर, especially as they had made their agreement? But here was an afflicted Brahmin. If he did not protect him, then Yudhishthir's fame would perish and he would be tainted by sin. Arjuna could not stand by and watch his brother be accused of irreligion. He had to get the weapons, even though it meant he would be exiled to the forest. He felt that even if he died in the forest, it would be preferable to being covered by sin. तो यहाँ पे यहाँ पे ही इज इन अ डायलेमा कि अभी ये क्या करे। एक तरफ अग्रीमेंट था कि वो रूम में नहीं जा सकते हैं एंड दूसरी तरफ ब्राह्मण जो थे वो चैलेंज कर रहे हैं, उनको भी प्रोटेक्ट करना धर्म था। अगर वो नहीं फॉलो करते तो फिर तो उसको अपनी चिंता नहीं लगी हुई है, उनको अपने भाई की लगी हुई है कि उस उनका फेम जो है वो टेंटेड हो जाएगा बाई से, क्योंकि एल्डर ब्रदर इज नोन टू बी किंग। एल्डर ब्रदर पे रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी होती है और उसके रहते हुए छोटा भाई उसको या ओवर ओवरटेक नहीं करना चाहता है। तो ही इज थिंकिंग इन दैट वे कि अगर नहीं करूंगा तो फिर मेरे भाई पे ऊपर कलंक लगेगा, लांछन लगेगा, जो भी he would be accused of irreligion। तो so he is thinking, यहाँ पे डायलेमा है, तो he is thinking कि कौन सा धर्म पालन किया जाए। तो he is thinking कि ठीक है अभी मेरा जो भी होगा होगा, बट आई हैव टू, मैं अपने भाई का नाम खराब नहीं होने दूंगा, इवन इफ आई हैव टू गो टू फॉरेस्ट, इट इज ओके। तो यहाँ पे हम देख रहे हैं कि वो जब क्लैश हो रही है, दोनों ही धर्म का पालन करना है उसको, बट यहाँ पे क्लैश हो रहा है दो धर्म के बीच में। तो ही इज गिविंग प्रेफरेंस विच इज मोर, जो ज्यादा अभी रिक्वायर्ड है, वो जो अग्रीमेंट है उसको वो तोड़ने को तैयार है यहाँ पे। So Arjuna resolved to enter the chamber and gather his weapons. He knocked on the door and walked in. Looking straight ahead of him, he strode quickly toward the weapons. Yudhishthir smiled to see his younger brother. He knew Arjuna must have an important reason for entering. Arjuna then explained the situation, took his bow, and rushed out of the palace. Taking the Brahmin and mounting his chariot, he pursued the robbers. When he saw them in the distance, Arjuna released infallible arrows, striking down the thieves as they made off with the Brahmin's cows. Okay. Having dealt swift justice to the robbers, Arjuna restored the property of the grateful Brahmin and returned to the city. तो उन्होंने उनका जो भी था आई थिंक या काउज आई थिंक वो रिटर्न कर दिया यहाँ पे या तुरंत से उन्होंने हैंडल कर लिया ये जो रॉबर्स थे. So Yudhishthir greeted his brother warmly as he entered the palace. Along with his older brothers, he applauded Arjuna for saving the Brahmin. Arjuna bowed before Yudhishthir and said, "O Lord, please give me permission to observe the vow as we have agreed. I shall leave for the forest at once." तो see यहाँ पे युधिष्ठिर कुछ नहीं बोल रहे हैं, but still Arjuna himself is saying कि अभी जो agreement था अभी वो तो मुझे पालन करना होगा, उसका मानना पड़ेगा. I have to, please allow me, please allow me to leave for the forest. So yeah, Yudhishthir's heart was pierced by grief when he heard Arjuna's statement. He immediately replied, "Why should you go, O sinless one? If I am your authority, then heed my words now. I was not in the least disturbed by your entering the room. There is no need for you to leave for the forest." So, yeah, he's saying to Arjuna, कोई जरूरत नहीं है अभी जाने की. It's okay. I can understand. Don't go, you sinless one. So Yudhishthira now looked tearfully at his handsome, curly-haired brother. He could, how could he face separation from the virtuous and gentle soul? He explained to Arjuna that the scriptures sanction a younger brother entering a room where his elder brother sat his wife. It was only when the elder brother intruded upon the younger that it was condemned. Arjuna had entered the room only in pursuance of duty and in service to Yudhishthira. See how they are conversant with the principles of religion, how dharma, uh, अभी वो उनको धर्म के हिसाब से भी समझा रहे हैं. ठीक है, इट्स ओके, अकॉर्डिंग टू धर्म ऑल्सो यंगर ब्रदर जो है वो जा सकते हैं, एल्डर ब्रदर इज सिटिंग विद हिज वाइफ. बट हाँ, बड़ा भाई है जो वो नहीं जा सकता अगर छोटी भाई वाइफ के साथ, दैट्स नॉट अलाउड. सो ही सेइंग, वो उनको बोल रहे हैं कि यू, सो ही इज अप्लाइंग जो भी टैक्टिक्स लगा सकते हैं उनको रोकने के लिए. बट अर्जुना वाज एडमेंट, माय लॉर्ड, आई हैव हर्ड from you that virtue must be practiced without hesitation or quibble. I shall not waver from truth. Truth is my weapon and virtue my strength. Grant me permission to leave, and I shall proceed to the forest today. Interesting है नहीं? मतलब कितने हाई मॉरल्स हैं इनके. दिस शोज कि हम अभी के टाइम में कितना मतलब हाउ वीक वी आर इन फॉलोइंग धर्म. इसलिए यहाँ पे वो बोल रहे हैं, इवन दो हिज ब्रदर इज सेइंग कि नहीं जरूरत नहीं है, गोइंग टू फॉरेस्ट फॉर एन ईयर नॉट स्मॉल थिंग एक्चुअली. ऐसा नहीं कि एक दिन के लिए बस जाना, बट स्टिल ही वाज अर्जुना वाज एडमेंट कि आप खुद बोल रहे हो कि वर्च्यू को छोड़ना नहीं चाहिए, इट शुड बी प्रैक्टिस विदाउट हेजिटेशन. Despite the other Pandavas' repeated pleas, Arjuna could not be swayed. Finally, Yudhishthir relented and gave his permission. Although it would be painful to think of his younger brother in exile for so long, it must somehow be the arrangement of providence. Hmm. Now they are they are thinking in terms of providence, arrangement of providence. विधाता का लिखा हुआ होगा कुछ. Must. So yeah, surely the Lord had some inscrutable purpose which would ultimately prove to their benefit. Hmm. He was sadly, as Arjuna left the city, accompanied by Brahmins, chanting sacred hymns and by servants carrying wealth for him to distribute as charity while he traveled. Hmm. So even he is going to forest, so he's taking his servants with him and for distributing wealth as charity. Very high principle. The young prince went on foot toward the north. He had decided to first follow the Ganges course toward the Himalayas and then proceed eastward to the coast. So toward Himalaya, जा रहे, following the coastline in a great circle, he would finally return to Indraprastha. So yeah, he has planned कि किस तरह से मुझे अपना time spent करना है. So he would go to North Himalaya and then he would travel in a circle and then he would finally return uh, to the west. Arjuna traveled at a leisurely pace. He saw charming woodlands, lakes, and gardens. There were countless hermitages along the banks of the Ganges where sages lived. And each evening, Arjuna would stop and recite prayers in their company. So he's getting a good break there. He seems like he wanted to take a break, wanted to spend time with the sages. I mean, he would also listen as the sages narrated tales from the ancient scriptures about the pastimes of the Supreme Lord in his many incarnations. Arjuna often thought of his cousin and dear friend Krishna as he walked. He hoped to visit him toward the end of his exile. The Pandavas listened as Pandava listened as the sages described how Krishna was the unborn original personality of Godhead, appearing on earth to destroy demonic men and to establish the eternal religion, pure love of God. This thing comes in Bhagavad Gita. किस तरह से अर्जुना बोल रहे हैं कि पवित्रम परम कैसे वो श्लोक maybe we can see that पवित्रम परम धामम something. Who remembers uh, it's 10.12. Okay, just give me a second, sorry for this brief interruption. Yeah, see here it comes. Param Param Brahmam Param Brahma Param Dhamam Pavitram Param Bhavana Purusham Shashwatam Divyam Madi Devamajam Vibhum Ahushtvam ऋषयः सर्वे देवर्षिर्नारदस्तथा असितो देवलो व्यासः स्वयं चैव ब्रभीषि में. तो यहाँ पे आ रहा है अर्जुन बोल रहे हैं यू आर द सुप्रीम पर्सनालिटी ऑफ गॉड एट द अल्टीमेट अबोर्ड द प्योरेस्ट द एब्सोल्यूट ट्रुथ. You are at the eternal, transcendental, original person, the unborn, the greatest. All the great sages such as Narada, Asita, Devala, and Vyasa confirmed this truth about you, and now you yourself are declaring it to me. ये मैं इसके लिए रेफर कर रहा हूँ क्योंकि यहाँ पे आ रहा है कि see Arjuna is having a nice timing with all these sages. He's hearing these discourses and he has heard from the sages how they described Krishna was the unborn original personality of Godhead appearing on earth to destroy demonic men and to establish the eternal religion, pure love of Godhead. And the same thing is coming here in Bhagavad Gita. ये अर्जुन बोल रहे कि ये आप है परम धामम, परम ब्रह्म, पवित्रम परम, ये सब बता रहे हैं कि आप अल्टीमेट अबोर्ड हो, प्योरेस्ट हो, एब्सोल्यूट ट्रुथ हो. एंड ये बता रहे हैं कि बाकी ये जो ग्रेट सेजेस हुए, ग्रेट सेजेस है नारद, असित, देवल, व्यास, सब ने ये कंफर्म किया. So he had this knowledge, he got this knowledge. So as यहाँ पे आया जस्ट पहले ये पैराग्राफ में कि it was arrangement of providence. So Arjuna had to meet all these sages and he had to receive all this here. Anyway, in the childhood also they lived with sages, but यहाँ पे भी फिर से आ रहा है. So it was destined for Arjuna. So okay, so they described him about Krishna. They described to him about Krishna. So as he traveled, Arjuna also performed fire sacrifices to please Vishnu and the gods. One evening, just as the Brahmins were kindling the sacred fire, Arjuna entered the Ganges in order to bathe. He was just about to then leave the river when he suddenly felt himself being drawn underwater by an unseen force. Despite his efforts to free himself, he was dragged deeply into the river. He then found himself mystically transported to a celestial place. Arjuna looked around and saw a sacred fire burning in the room he had entered. The prince immediately sat before the fire and offered libations of ghee into the flames, fearlessly reciting the mantras. So यहाँ पे अर्जुन जो है ये यज्ञ कर रहे हैं to please Vishnu and the gods, and ब्राह्मण्स वहाँ पे वो भी थे, वो भी फायर में they were also जो भी आहुति वगैरह डाल रहे हैं. And अर्जुन वो गंगा में नहाने गए तो यहाँ पे उनको suddenly he was drawn underwater by an unseen force. And वहाँ पे ये देख रहे हैं कि ये he's dragged deeply into the river and कोई तो अजीब सा mystical place है, celestial place. And वहाँ पे क्या बोलते हैं, वहाँ पे भी ये sacred fire में ये वहाँ पे यज्ञ कर रहे हैं. So he's reciting the mantras there. So just as Arjuna was completing his evening rituals in that strange place, a beautiful girl entered the room. She glanced coyly at Arjuna and smiled. He recognized her at once to be a maiden belonging to the celestial Naga race. Arjuna understood at once what had happened. The Nagas have the power to transfer humans to their own heavenly dimension of existence. So as we know, there are, like we say, कि हम we don't see कि क्या मतलब all these things what we study, sorry, read, we are not able to see by our material eyes. But because these all things are there, these some heavenly planets, all these things are there. Like even Mars और जो भी है, जो चंद्र है, चंद्रमा पे जाने की पहुंचने की कोशिश कर रहा है, वहां पे उनको बस रॉक दिख रहा है. बट वहां पे जो लाइफ है, एवरीथिंग इज देयर, इट्स ऑन डिफरेंट डिमेंशन. You cannot, even though materially if you're trying to enter there or go there, you will not be able to go there actually, because all these things are on different dimension. तो यहाँ पे जो नागा planet भी है जो, there's also in a different dimension. तो इन्होंने they have, यहाँ पे आ रहा है, they have the power to transfer humans to their own heavenly dimension of existence. So yeah, Arjuna को ले गए वहां पे वो खींच के. So obviously this girl had become attracted to him and had drawn him down to her abode. There is some love story going on here. So he smiled back and said, "Oh, beautiful maiden, you have been bold indeed. Who are you, and where is this divine region? ये कहाँ मैं आ गया हूँ?" और ये सब एक्चुअली ये सब फिल्मों में, ये सब बॉलीवुड में भी ये सब कॉपी करते हैं, ये सब इस तरह से. So the girl replied that she was the daughter of a Naga king named Kauravya. Her name was Ulupi. So Arjuna had four wives, चार wives थी उनकी उसमें से एक wife ये Ulupi, she also becomes a wife, one of one उनकी एक wife बनती. So when you enter the river for your bath, I was moving through the waters in my ethereal form. So yes, she was moving in a different form, in a different dimension. Hare Krishna, yeah. Anybody want to say anything? Oh, sorry. But anyway, it was आप लोग को समझ में आ रहा था ना क्या चल रहा है? Okay. So yeah, Ulupi नाम था उनका and she was जब अर्जुना गए नहाने तो वो भी she was also there moving to the waters in her different form, ethereal form. So I was struck by Cupid's arrow as soon as I saw your godlike form. So he was son of he is uh, इंद्र के पुत्र थे तो obviously he was उनके features they थे he was देव की तरह थे ये लोग तो देवता की तरह ही थे ये लोग. So, O descendant of Kuru, I am yet unmarried. Therefore, accept me as your wife. Give yourself up to me and gratify me today. Arjuna said that he was bound by a vow of celibacy for 1 year. He could not therefore accept her as his wife. Still, as she was a Naga, he knew she must have already known this by her celestial intelligence. She would not have asked him to marry her if her request did not somehow conform to the codes of virtue. Indeed, the scriptures enjoin that a Kshatriya should never refuse a maiden who supplicated herself to him. So यहाँ पे एक और धर्म की बात आ रही है कि अगर कोई maiden if she is asking for a Kshatriya's hand, he is not supposed to refuse. So so Arjuna is thinking that way. He he already yeah.
Prabhuji, then Ram Bhagwan was also a Kshatriya, right? So उनको भी काफी proposals आए थे, then how come he refused?
बट यहाँ पे इन्होंने बोल रहा है ऐसे भी अर्जुन और राम के तो बीच में डिफरेंस है एंड राम वाज वो पूरे लाइफ टाइम के लिए उन्होंने भाव लिया था एंड आई यहाँ पे इनका एक ही साल का था मे बी आई डोंट नो राम जो एनीवे कर रहे हैं वो तो दैट बिकम्स भगवान जो भी कर रहे हैं दैट बिकम्स धर्म इन इटसेल्फ आई मीन वॉट एवर ही डज इट्स राइट इट्स नॉट ही इज नॉट बाउंड बाय सो टू से आई मीन रूल्स रूल्स इज नॉट अबव गॉडलीनेस अभी इस तरह से आप देखोगे तो बहुत सारी चीजें हैं जो कि क्वेश्चन करते हैं राम के ऊपर भी लोग बट या वी कैन नॉट हाँ तो उन्होंने
Okay.
रिफ्यूज किया या आई मीन मे बी दैट रूल डजंट अप्लाई टू हिम मे बी इन अ नॉर्मल जनरल सेंस में वी कैन से कि ये रूल अप्लाई होता है मे बी देयर कैन बी एक्सेप्शंस एंड अगेन राम के केस में हम नहीं बोल सकते कि राम इज राम लॉर्ड रामचंद्र इज सुप्रीम पर्सनैलिटी ऑफ गॉड आई डोंट नो व्हाट हाउ कैन आई जस्टिफाई दैट बट यहाँ पे आ रहा है देखते हैं I hope I know I must not have satisfied you with my answer. Yeah, Hare Krishna Mataji.
Prabhuji, Ram that I'll only have one wife. So that's what he told to Srupnaka that I can't marry second
हाँ
wife. Already
हाँ तो
under.
नहीं उसमें हाँ उसमें उन्होंने लेकिन उन्होंने रिफ्यूज किया तो ये चीज माता जी बोल रही थी क्योंकि यहाँ पे ये पॉइंट आ रहा है कि
Like Bhishma
क्षत्रिय
Pitama.
क्षत्रिय शुड नेवर रिफ्यूज अ मेडन.
Yes, but like Bhishma Pitama, Sri Ram took this oath that I'll only have one wife. He could not break.
और एक चीज और है कि राम को जब तो सुपर्णखा ने बोला था तो उस समय ही वाज नॉट वो तो सन्यासी जैसे भेष में थे वो तो वैराग वो क्षत्रिय के रूप में थे नहीं वो उस समय एग्जैक्टली
Yes,
ही
Prabhuji.
वाज नॉट लिविंग लाइक अ किंग देयर एग्जैक्टली So that is also there. But yeah, the point is ये हमको समझना होगा कि God is not bound by rules. He can break rules as per he. I mean, जब मन करे तब वो तोड़ सकता. But still, he's following that many times. That is his uh, greatness. Okay. Arjuna asked her how he could satisfy her desire while at the same time maintain his truthfulness. Ulupi replied, I know of your vow, O hero. You and your brothers made a rule in regard to Draupadi. This is well known to the gods. But that rule pertained only to your wife. It is her with whom you must not consort for the next year. There will be no sin in accepting another woman. Hmm. So, तो इनके वाव के बारे में पता था कि ठीक है, एक एक द्रौपदी का था, एक एक साल का था ऐसा अग्रीमेंट. तो ही इज रिमाइंडिंग, शी इज रिमाइंडिंग कि वो तो तुम्हारा द्रौपदी के साथ है. आई हैव टू डू नथिंग विद दैट. You can accept me. There will be no sin in that. So, filled with desire for the powerful Pandava hero, Ulupi besieged him to accept her. She explained that such an act would be his highest duty under the present circumstances. The Naga princess knew that Arjuna would act only when impelled by virtuous motives. See, वो भी जान रही थी कि अर्जुन जो है विदाउट, जब तक वो धर्म के हिसाब से नहीं हुआ तब तक वो एक्सेप्ट नहीं करेंगे वो. So he has to be satisfied with principles कि क्या प्रिंसिपल है, क्या धर्म है, तभी वो एक्सेप्ट करेंगे. If he's not like कि करंट मॉडर्न डे मैन की हाँ ठीक है सामने से ऑफर आ रहा है, why to think about that. So she told him that so that's why Arjuna was, I mean, he was glorious actually. She told him that if he did not take her as his wife, she would destroy herself. Thus, he would be saving her life by accepting her. That was certainly a greater virtue than observing celibacy. Even if his piety suffered a slight loss by his going with her, he would gain greater merits by having saved the life of a helpless woman who had approached him for shelter. Hmm. It is also interesting. She's यहाँ पे आ रहा है कि helpless women asking for shelter. So generally ये principle था पहले के polygamy was allowed, and polygamy, there is nothing wrong with polygamy because it's men's duty to provide shelter, and women has this tendency to ask for, I mean, they always seek protection. They seek जो भी एक right candidate हो जो provide कर सके उनको protection. So that's why that was allowed. That was not something cheap thing which was practiced in earlier Vedic times. So yeah, polygamy में कोई problem नहीं था as such as per dharma, because they can give shelter. That's why they can accept more than one wife. So Arjuna thought carefully. He decided that the Naga maiden was speaking the truth, and that he would not be acting wrongly to accept her as his wife. He smiled and nodded in assent. Ulupi quickly fetched two celestial garlands, which she and Arjuna duly exchanged to signify their acceptance of one another. Having sealed their union according to scripture injunctions, Arjuna then spent the night with her in Kauravya's palace. Ulupi waited upon him and offered him every kind of celestial food and drink. They then lay together on a golden bed in the heavenly mansion and conceived a child. In the morning, Arjuna rose just before sunrise. Ulupi brought him back through the Ganges to the place where he had bathed the night before. तो अभी वापस अर्जुना को वहां पे ले गए जहाँ पे वो बादिंग करने के लिए एक्चुअल में गए थे. अभी तक ये सब डिफरेंट डिमेंशन में चल रहा था ये. This was all different dimension it was going on. Before leaving him, Ulupi blessed Arjuna. You shall be invincible in water. Every aquatic creature will be vanquished by you in a fight. यहाँ पे एक blessing भी मिल गई. So Arjuna, in his journey, we see throughout Mahabharata, you will see he get so many blessings from different people, and that's why he was very powerful. He had so many shakti. So yeah, after telling Arjuna that she would return to him later when he was back in his own kingdom, Ulupi vanished into the Ganges waters. Okay, so she said when he'll be back to Indraprastha, she'll join him, leaving Arjuna to be greeted by his followers. So the ascetic Brahmins had seen by their own divine sight how the prince had been taken to the region of the Nagas. So Brahmins जो थे ascetic, they also saw that. They also had that divine दिव्य दृष्टि से उन्होंने भी देख लिया था कि ये कहाँ चले गए. So this is just this all happened some 5,000 years ago, not very far away. People had this kind of power. So they met him as he returned and offered him their blessings. Arjuna related to them everything that had happened. The party continued on the Himalayas and soon arrived at the Bhrigu mountain where the famous Vasishtha Rishi had once had his hermitage. Many Brahmins lived on that hill and Arjuna distributed much charity to them. वो charity लेके चले थे, we saw that वो wealth वगैरह लेके चले थे, so he's distributing charity to Brahmins. So they are always aware of their duties. So after bathing in a sacred lake on the Bhrigu mountain, he walked on, visiting numerous other holy sites. Arjuna went toward the east, gradually descending from the Himalayan range. He reached the forest of Naimisharanya, said by the sages to be the very hub of the universe. So this Naimisharanya is again a very prominent, very interesting place, very famous place. यहाँ पे ही actually आपके भागवतम रिसाइट हो रहा है जब सारे sages जो है headed by Sonaka Rishi is asking questions. They are doing 1,000 years of sacrifices and they are asking questions to Suta Goswami, who was son of uh, Roma Harshan Suta, who had heard this Bhagavatam when this was recited by Sukadeva Goswami to Parikshit Maharaj. So Naimisharanya is also called to be a center of the universe, hub of the universe. It's somewhat far from Ayodhya, comes in Uttar Pradesh. वहाँ पे बहुत बड़ा एक चक्र तीर्थ है. It's a very big hub of the universe बोला जाता है वहाँ पे. So from there he crossed over the rivers Nanda, Upananda, and famous Kaushika, where the great Rishi Vishwamitra had performed asceticism for thousands of years in ancient days. So तो यहाँ पे ही विश्वामित्र ने भी 1,000 of years तक वो तपस्या की थी. वो रामायण में स्टोरी देख सुना होगा आप लोग. So desiring to increase his piety, Arjuna traveled from one pilgrimage site to another along with his retinue. He performed many sacrificial ceremonies and gave away much wealth. When he reached the, तो ऐसा लग रहा है कि Arjuna really wanted to go actually. It was not a punishment, so to say, but rather he seems to having a very nice time here. So when he reached the border of the kingdom of Kalinga on the eastern coast, he bade farewell to most of his followers and entered the kingdom with only a few attendants. Kaling पहुंच गया अभी ये. Arjuna journeyed through forest, woodlands, and numerous towns and villages. He passed the great Mount Mahendra and arrived finally in Manipur, where he visited King Chitravahan in his city of Manalu. The king had an attractive daughter named Chitrangada. Arjuna saw her one day in palace gardens and was struck with desire. तो अभी ये भी एक वाइफ इनकी बनती। तो अच्छा 1 साल में इनकी ये पहले कौन आई? उलूपी, now it's Chitrangada. So this time Arjuna actually fell for her. So he approached the king and asked for his daughter's hand in marriage. Chitravahan replied that he would be delighted to see his daughter wed an illustrious heir of the Kuru race. Arjuna was famous. अभी एक चीज इंटरेस्टिंग है कि पहले इनको जब वो उनको उलूपी बोल रही थी, इन दैट टाइम उनको वो बोल रहे थे कि 1 साल का वाव है, but now he know that he can accept another one, so this time he's not confused. So Arjuna was famous throughout the world as a hero without equal, but the king had one condition. Years ago his ancestors had prayed to Shiva for a child. The deity had granted their request, saying, "You shall have a child, and from now on all of your descendants will have a child, but one child only to continue your race." Okay, this is interesting. तो ये चित्रवाहन उनको ये रिक्वेस्ट ग्रांट हुआ था शिवा से, उन्हें चाइल्ड के लिए प्रे किया था that okay, you will have a child, but from now on all of your descendants will have a child, but one child only. तो एक ही चाइल्ड होगी. So Chitravahan had only a daughter. चित्रवाहन को बस एक ही बेटी. If Arjuna begot a son with his daughter, he must leave the boy to become the next king of Manipur. Okay, this was the condition. तुमको जो वो मणिपुर में, क्योंकि इनको एक ही बच्चा हुआ, वो बेटी, तो अभी वापस राजा लेगेसी कौन फॉलो करेगा, तो इसलिए वो बोल रहे कि तुम्हारा जो बच्चा होगा उसको, तो दिस वाज अलाउड कि बेटी के बच्चे को they can accept as a son and to further continue their वंश kind of. तो इस तरह से था पहले का सिस्टम. इवन भागवतम में भी आता है, रिमेम्बर वहां पे भी आता है, कोई स्टोरी में था. So Arjuna happily accepted the condition and was married to the princess with all due ceremony. He remained in the city for 3 months. When he saw that Chitrangada had conceived, he took his leave from her, and the king setting out again on his travels. So 3 महीने उधर निकल गया उनका. Before leaving, he promised Chitrangada that he would return and bring her to his home in Indraprastha. So okay, इनका भी वही इंद्रप्रस्थ जब आएंगे तो वापस ज्वाइन हो जाएंगे. So Arjuna then made his way south along the coast. When he reached the southern coast, he found a large community of rishis. Again, he found a large community of rishis. He asked them to point out the local pilgrimage sites, and the rishis informed him that they were. So yeah, one thing is that we should not take all these जो भी marrying to something mundane. शादी कर लिया, ऐसा हुआ वैसा हुआ. That's why the problem is he was of a very high character. That also we saw that. So we should not take it cheaply, all these stuffs. So yeah, he asked them to point out the local pilgrimage sites, and the rishis informed him that there were 5 sacred lakes in that region. Because we see that for everything there was some purpose. There's something is linked, some connection is there. So there's 5 sacred lakes in that region, which could not be approached because they were infested with crocodiles. These lakes could confer great merits upon anyone who bathed in them. But as soon as a man entered the water, he would be carried away by one of the powerful reptiles. तो अच्छा, यहाँ पे जैसे देखते हैं कि ऋषि लोग जो प्रैक्टिस करते हैं, ऑस्टेरिटी करते हैं, there are some disturbance in that region, so they ask for the Kshatriya king to help. They can also sort out that problem, but that that they don't want to indulge in violence these rishi, because they are doing tapasya, austerity. So they don't do it themselves. They don't want to do it themselves because that breaks the vow of their. I mean, उनका तपस्या थोड़ा सा जो पुण्य accrue करते हैं वो that थोड़ा सा उसमें लेश हो जाता है थोड़ा. That's why they don't want to get into that mode of violence. So इसके लिए यहाँ पे I think they are asking for help from Arjuna. So Arjuna saw an opportunity to serve the ascetics. See, Arjuna is seeing the opportunity to serve the ascetics. He remembered his boon from Ulupi. Yeah. So see यहाँ पे अभी इनको एसेटिक्स को सर्व करना है and अभी वाटर में अभी ये क्रोकोडाइल्स हैं और इनको डिफीट करना है उनको जो भी इनको देखना है तो अभी ऑलरेडी जस्ट बिफोर few months back he got a boon from Ulupi. He will be invincible in water. So going to the lake named Agastya, after the famous Rishi who had once lived there, he dived into the water. Arjuna's leg was immediately seized by great crocodile. Feeling the divine strength confirmed by Ulupi, he grasped hold of the animal and pulled it out of the water. Arjuna dashed the creature onto the shore. It suddenly became limp, and a beautiful celestial maiden came out of its body. Seeing the wonderful sight, Arjuna asked, "Who are you, O beautiful one? Why have you committed such sins in this lake, carrying away holy ascetics?" The maiden stood before Arjuna with folded palms. "O mighty hero, I am the Apsara named Varga, ever beloved of Kuvera." Then Varga explained that she had once been going with four of her friends to see Kuvera. As they traveled through a heavenly woodland region, they saw a Brahmin meditating in a lonely place. He was extremely handsome and he lit up the woods with his bodily luster. The five Apsaras playfully tried to disturb his meditation. They danced and sang before him, trying to tempt him away from his ascetic practices. Although unmoved by lust, the Brahmin was angered by their behavior. He then cursed them, "As you attack me now without compunction, you five shall become crocodiles, whose business is attacking others." The maidens at once came to their senses, showing contrition. They begged the Brahmin for mercy. He relented and told them that they would soon be delivered from their crocodile bodies by a powerful man. At that moment, the great sage Narada Rishi arrived there and told them to enter the five sacred lakes on Bharata's south coast. Soon Arjuna would come and release them from their bondage. So we see कि किस तरह से भगवान खुद या भगवान के कृष्ण के devotee they release people from their sin, from their curse. So okay, we'll end here. It's already 8:55. Anything from anybody?